I come to you with horrifying and grave news, but I don't come to you with this information to scare you. I respect you, and I believe that you deserve to know the truth of what we're facing. President-elect Joe Biden, who has been announced by the corporate media and all the big banks and the Chi-Coms to be our new president, despite all the fraud, is openly preparing a task force in his own press releases that is calling for an endless, permanent lockdown, endless face mask, COVID-19 tracking and tracing, and forced inoculations. I'm about to lay out this information for you and your family. When Joe Biden says he wants love and reconciliation, remember that everything he's told you previously is a giant, bald-faced lie. And remember, the establishment, the most corrupt corporations in the world, are steamrolling him to install him as the first dictator of the United States.
Now is when the real work begins. The hard work, the necessary work, the good work, the essential work to save lives and beat this epidemic.
The UK's Chief of the Defence Staff, General Sir Nick Carter, has warned that the global economic meltdown caused by the COVID-19 lockdown pandemic may lead to new security threats, which in turn may spark a new world war. First off, on this emergency Sunday night transmission, let me show you an article posted on Infowars.com with direct links to the Ministry of Defence in the UK. There's a real risk of third world war being unleashed, top UK general says. And he says because of the COVID-19 lockdowns, their Secretary of Defense, it's already starved millions to death and is already triggering giant wars in the third and first world that could escalate very easily in a domino effect into World War III. Well, it just so turns out the Communist Chinese and others are on record with Bill Gates admitting that they're trying to lower the world's carbon footprint and destroy everybody else's industries who locked down because they're good guys and want to defeat the virus, and then only Communist China and the globalist holdings are left operating.
The problem is that the population is growing the fastest where people are less able to deal with it. So it's in the very poorest places.
The individuals that Joe Biden is nominating for his COVID-19 task force are on record working for Bill Gates and the UN, and they openly admit they want forced inoculations, contact tracers, and individuals that come to your home and even break up your family and take you away to COVID centers. This isn't some nightmare science fiction movie. This is the reality of what's happening. And Bill Gates is on record just a few weeks ago saying the lockdown's going to last 10 years until you go back to normal. Remember, it was going to be 15 days because the hospitals were full, but they weren't. Then it'd be 2 months, then it'd be 6 months, then it'd be 2 years, then it'd be 5 years. And now they're telling you it's forever.
The only way we'll get completely back to normal is by having maybe not the first generation vaccines, but eventually a vaccine that is super effective and that a lot of the people take, and that we get the disease eliminated on a global basis. That is where we can finally start taking all the problems that have been created in education and mental health and start to build back in a positive way.
It's not COVID-19 that's triggering global starvation. It's not COVID-19 that's triggering a global depression. It's not COVID-19 that experts believe could trigger a new world war and have already started countless conflicts. It is the lockdown used, built around the fraud of COVID-19. The empty hospitals they said were filled. All the people that died of other diseases they put in the COVID column. The fact that most of the tests are false positive and the rate of infection increases while the rate of death stays very, very small. They told us 5% of the population will be dead. They told us 2.5 million, then 2.3 million Americans will be dead. They told us 500,000 Brits will be dead. None of it was true. It was part of putting us under a martial law system ahead of taking out nation states run by populists and nationalists like Donald Trump, Bolsonaro, and others. So let that sink in, that the head of the UK military is coming out and admitting that the COVID-19 lockdown is bringing our world towards total destruction.
How worried are you that the global economic crisis brought on by coronavirus could lead to new security threats, potentially even war?
Yes, I mean, I think, we're living at a moment in time where the world is a very uncertain and anxious place. And of course, the dynamic of global competition is a feature of our lives as well. And I think the real risk we have with quite a lot of the regional conflicts that are going on at the moment is you could see escalation lead to miscalculation. So what that means is that the protagonists, either because they don't realise the implications of their actions, lead to an escalation, which means that more people perhaps get involved, more weaponry gets involved, and before you can contain it, it leads to the sides ending up in a full-blown war. And if you look back at the last century, before both world wars, I think it was unarguable that there was escalation that led to the miscalculation, which ultimately led to war at a scale we would hopefully never see again.
Now, here's where President Trump comes in. Joe Biden is forming his new commission made up of a bunch of Bill Gates and UN alumni that are going to blame President Trump for what happened with COVID-19, despite the fact the UN admits they helped cover up the fact that China is where COVID-19 came from, and that's where the initial spread took place. Joe Biden's transition team today released a nightmare list of information to MarketWatch about what they're planning to do. In it, they say we're going to have a quasi-permanent lockdown that they turn up and dial back whenever they want. That we've all got to have a federal mask mandate to even wear masks in our houses. That contact tracers will be coming into our homes, and that forced inoculations are about to take place. But because those inoculations, they admit, won't work because you can't get antibodies for COVID-19 because it's such an alien virus they've engineered, that permanently you're going to have to stay in your home when they say so.
We're going to act to get COVID under control. On day one of my presidency, I'll put in action a plan I've been talking about for months, already laid out. A national mandate, mask wearing, social distancing, testing, tracing, all things, as President Obama just said, that should have and could have been put in place months and months ago.
They're now coming out and saying President Trump is to blame for COVID-19, hoping he doesn't challenge it, saying that if Trump doesn't give control 70 plus days before he leaves office to Joe Biden, he will be blamed for any future COVID deaths. Even if President Trump does that, they're going to turn around and say, see, he admits he's wrong. His previous response was bad. It's his fault. If he does turn over the administration, which no president's ever done, months early, it sets an incredibly dangerous precedent as well. And now Trump will be signing his legacy on to the endless lockdown and the depression and the worldwide collapse that's being engineered by the globalists to consolidate power and control on record. And then they're still going to blame Trump and say he's the one to blame. The only path out of this is the hardcore steel truth that'll smash through their lies. And that's that Fauci and the UN, when Bill Gates cooked this up, they released it, they created the fear, they got it in the United States, they hyped it up, they exaggerated it, they created the hysteria, and now they intend to never turn loose of the weapon they released, and they're going to blame the populist president they launched it on for being the one that allowed it to take place. That is true destruction and inversion of the truth, and it must be rejected because this is 1 trillion times bigger than President Trump. This is about all of our lives and our future and stopping this medical big pharma tyranny takeover that's happening now. Don't believe me. Go to Infowars.com and read the quotes from Biden's new UN-backed COVID-19 task force. And above his comments, I have my own comment. Here's what I had to say. If you want to have a martial law takeover, you want to use medical systems to do it because those are the most respected, and studies show people will submit to that more. Then you create a man-made virus that spreads very well, that's not very deadly, but that reinfects. And then you announce that no one can ever have their freedoms back until it's totally eradicated, and that you take the vaccine. Then they tell you, sorry, the vaccine's never going to work either. So you just got to have restrictions of where you go and what you do forever with these apps that control and track your whole life with a social credit score. And that's the takeover. Then they start announcing, but we are going to send contact tracers to your house and take you away if you don't submit to the medical protocols we're going to carry out that don't even protect you. That's a total takeover plan they can turn on and turn off for every election for total control. InfoWars has the biggest audiences right now we've ever had, despite the censorship. And I'm not happy about that. People are tuned in because we predicted they steal the election from Trump. We predicted forced inoculation. We predicted contact tracers in films I made 13 years ago because we're going off the globalist own plans. So President Trump, you must address from the Oval Office this fraud. You must take on Fauci. You must take on Gates. I know they're coming to you and saying, we won't blame you for the deaths. We'll protect your entire legacy if you roll over to us. But they want to destroy the American people's legacy, and they're going to betray you. You know they've been lying about you for 5 years. You know they're frauds. And the only way out of this is for you to not concede and to expose these criminals now more than you've ever done. Only you can cut through the censorship and propaganda. Only you can awaken the sleeping giant, and now is the time, because they are, again, in all these news articles announcing permanent lockdowns, forced inoculations, mask forever. We are going into such an authoritarian nightmare cult. Please, Mr. President, take action. The globalists could never take over America with an outside army or even foreign media. But by controlling big medicine and big pharma, and by controlling U.S. media, they are able to have us hide in our houses and stand down while our economy implodes, while our society falls apart, while millions die from not getting cancer treatment and heart treatment and other diseases treatment. The end game is a guaranteed universal income under a social credit score where they can dictate every facet of your life. Everything I warned of isn't coming now. It's here. And this is the time to resist and the time to say no. We have justice and freedom and history on our hands, and if we don't submit, we will defeat this. If we submit, things only get worse from here. I'm Alex Jones, thanking you all. God bless and good luck. Please take action. The miraculous properties of turmeric have been admired and even worshipped for thousands of years by ancient civilizations. But with modern science, we know why turmeric is so popular. Its antioxidant effect, its anti-inflammatory effect, everything it does is simply amazing. And most turmerics out there are simply food products. They're 3 to 5% curcuminoid, but we have Body's ultimate turmeric formula with a 95% curcuminoid level. Then we have other organic products in there that accelerate it and bring it into the cells of the body. It's been sold out for months. It's back in stock. And despite that, Body's ultimate turmeric formula at InfoWarsStore.com is 50% off with free shipping and triple Patriot points at InfoWarsStore.com. It's Body's ultimate turmeric formula. If you haven't tried it, learn why it's got thousands of 5-star reviews at InfoWarsStore.com. And you can't lose. It funds the InfoWar. I get asked all the time by listeners and by the media, what am I most proud of when it comes to the show? And it's the fact that InfoWars, more than 25 years ago, doing basic research with what the Club of Rome and the CFR and others were actually saying, developed the hypothesis that communist China had been set up to take our jobs and transfer them to China and then make us economically destitute and position us into debt. Well, now China owns the debt. Now China owns Hollywood, all the one-sided trading deals. It turns out our analysis was absolutely dead on. But again, it wasn't that hard. The CFR and others admitted what they were doing, but still others didn't want to focus on that issue. We did. And you focused on it by supporting us at InfoWars. So when you go to InfoWarsStore.com and get all the great supplements, books, t-shirts, films, water filtration, air filtration, all of it, you're funding the organization that literally helped wake up the world what's really happening. So that's a big accomplishment for all of you. I want to thank you for your support.